It was supposed to be just another quiet evening for Daniel Miller, a single father who had long ago traded his own dreams for the safety and happiness of his little girl. The sun had only just dipped below the horizon when Daniel slipped the leash onto Max, his loyal German shepherd, and began their usual walk down the wooded trail behind their small town. The autumn air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth. Daniel loved these walks. They gave him time to think, to breathe, and to remember that life, despite all its hardships, was still beautiful. But that night, something happened that would change his life forever and leave an entire police department in awe. Before we go deeper into this powerful true story, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Bekind TV, because stories like this remind us that kindness and courage can truly change everything. The Discovery Daniel's boots crunched softly over the gravel path as Max trotted slightly ahead, his tail swaying rhythmically. The trail was dimly lit, the tall trees swallowing what little light the moon offered. It was peaceful, until Max suddenly froze. His ears perked up, body stiff, and a low growl rumbled from his chest. Daniel frowned. Max wasn't just any dog. He was trained, calm, disciplined. If he reacted like that, something was wrong. "Easy, boy," Daniel whispered, tightening his grip on the leash. Then he heard it, a faint, strangled sound drifting through the still night, like someone gasping for air. Daniel's heart lurched. He followed the sound, Max now pulling harder, leading him off the trail toward the dense brush. And then he saw her, a woman in a blood-stained police uniform, slumped against the base of a tree. Her hand pressed weakly to her side, crimson seeping through her fingers. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow, but her eyes, sharp and defiant, still clung to life. "Help, please," she whispered. Daniel dropped to his knees beside her, heart pounding. "Hang on. You're going to be okay." Her uniform told him what she couldn't. She was a police officer, probably in her late 20s. He didn't know her name, but the badge on her chest told him she had sworn to protect this very town, and now she was dying in his arms. Without hesitation, Daniel tore off his jacket and pressed it firmly against her wound. She winced, but didn't cry out. "What happened?" he asked urgently. "Ambush," she coughed. "Drug house raid. They were waiting for us. I got separated." Her words faded, her eyelids fluttering. Daniel's pulse spiked. He reached instinctively for his phone, but it wasn't there. He'd left it charging at home, never expecting danger on a simple evening walk. The trail was too deep in the woods for anyone to hear him yell. He was alone, except for Max, the decision. And that's when the father in him, the man who had once held his newborn daughter and promised never to fail her, made a decision. He couldn't let this woman die here. "Max," he commanded, looking into the dog's intelligent eyes. "Go home, fetch." For a split second, Max hesitated. Then he bolted down the trail, running faster than Daniel had ever seen. Daniel knew what that meant. Max would race home, bark until someone came, maybe even find Emma, Daniel's 12-year-old daughter. Max had been trained years ago by Daniel's late wife, a canine handler before cancer took her away. That dog wasn't just a pet. He was family, a partner. And tonight, he would prove it, a race against time. Daniel turned back to the wounded officer, pressing harder on her wound. "Stay with me," he urged. "Don't you dare give up." Her eyes fluttered open again, glazed with pain. Why are you helping me?" she whispered. Daniel's voice trembled. "Because if it were my daughter out here, I'd want someone to help her too." Minutes felt like hours. To keep her conscious, Daniel kept talking. She told him her name, Officer Alina Ramirez. Between shallow breaths, she shared her story. She had joined the force after her younger brother died of a drug overdose, vowing to fight back against the poison destroying her community. Tonight was supposed to be a simple raid. Instead, she was bleeding in the woods, wondering if her oath would cost her life. Then, faint barking in the distance, voices, flashlights cutting through the trees. Max came bounding back through the darkness, leading Emma and two joggers who had been near the trailhead. One of them grabbed his phone and called 911 immediately. Within minutes, the woods came alive with red and blue lights. Paramedics rushed to Alina's side. Lifting her onto a stretcher, Daniel's jacket, soaked in blood, was still pressed against her wound. One medic looked at him and said in disbelief, "If you hadn't kept pressure on it, she'd be gone." "You saved her life." Daniel shook his head, trembling. "We saved her life," he said softly. "Me and Max." A hero's honor as the ambulance pulled away. Daniel stood under the flashing lights with Emma and Max by his side. Emma slipped her small hand into her father's. "Dad, you were like a hero tonight." Daniel swallowed hard. He didn't feel like a hero. He just felt grateful. Grateful that he'd been able to keep a promise, even if it wasn't his own daughter he was saving. Days later, Daniel received a call from the police chief, asking him to come to the station. Nervous but curious, he agreed. When he walked in, the entire department was waiting, and in front, standing tall despite a bandage around her waist, was Officer Alina Ramirez. She walked up to Daniel slowly, tears in her eyes, and in front of her fellow officers, she saluted him. "On behalf of the force, and on behalf of my family," she said, voice trembling, "thank you. You didn't just save me. You reminded us why we fight, why we serve." The room erupted in applause. Emma hugged Max tightly as he barked proudly, tail wagging. And Daniel, a man who had always lived quietly in the shadows, suddenly found himself standing in the light, overwhelmed but deeply moved. A lasting lesson later, as Alina stood beside him, she whispered, "You didn't just save my life, Daniel. You saved my faith. I was starting to wonder if this job was worth it. But now I know it is, because people like you still exist." Daniel couldn't speak. He just nodded, his throat tight, because deep down, he knew the truth. Sometimes heroes aren't the ones in uniform. Sometimes they're just fathers who refuse to let someone else's child suffer. And dogs who still remember the way home. So remember, when life gives you the chance to help someone, take it. You never know when your small act of courage might mean the difference between life and death. And before we close, if this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe to Be Kind TV. It helps us keep sharing stories that prove one powerful truth: kindness is stronger than hate. Courage lives in ordinary people. And sometimes it takes a quiet father, a brave daughter, and a loyal dog to remind the world that love can ripple far beyond one night in the woods.